All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our lunchtime presentation. We're going to be reviewing our legislative priorities for this year, but I want to thank you again for a wonderful day. I'm just going to go ahead and mute everyone, and then Louis, if you want to just make sure you're unmuted when it's your time, that'd be awesome. And then thank you everyone for being here for lunch. I hope you had a great day yesterday and a great day this morning. Please drop a line in the chat about to me or to Tammy or any of our organizers, Dawn, with how you like the flow of the Institute so far. It's a little different. If you remember last year, we had a little bit more sessions and we tried to pull it back this year and have it be a little lighter and a little bit more break time, longer sessions as opposed to the hour sessions. So give us some feedback. We'll be sending out a survey as well, but we always like to hear that feedback from you all and just garner that. So thank you for being here and joining us for the Institute. And we've got a great presentation here, but I'm going to turn it over to our president, Tammy Brown, to share a few words of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. And yes, just want to thank you all for joining us for these past 2 beautiful days. Hopefully during the breaks, you've been able to step outside and get a chance to get to that sun. I actually did some planting during lunch today, so I'm in a really good mood now. That makes my day. Also, shout out to Burlington, who will be speaking in a moment for sponsoring our platform this year. They're always such a great partner. To all the presenters, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know sometimes it's nerve-wracking and it takes you out of your comfort zone, but without the presenters, obviously we couldn't have the PD, and we all need to learn from each other. That's what's so great about this. We have a nice mix of national experts and local experts so that we can really learn from each other, but also from what's going on across the nation. We've really tried to focus on expanding and learning from what's going on, everywhere else, as well as in Michigan. Not that we're not one of the best, but there's always more you can learn from everybody else. And to our committee, Patrick, I don't know if you have a screen with all of the names of the spring conference committee, but to all of our board members for helping in any way they did, and our moderators, thank you. I know that can be stressful sometimes making sure the tech works, but everything's been flowing so smoothly because you guys have been just doing an awesome job with moderation. So just kudos to everybody. Thank you. And happy Friday, right? I should have brought my cowbell. It's Friday.
No, thank you so much for that, Tammy. And again, thank you to Louis and Brandy from Burlington English, who are always available and always pick up the phone whenever we need something. We need ideas, we need thoughts, we need support. Those two are they're very good human beings and friends. And they're also wonderful colleagues. And they just are always willing to support MACAE and what we do in Michigan. And they say, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. So I just want to thank them personally for that. And Louis, is there anything that you'd like to share or say?
Sure. I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to sponsor. It's always great to see everyone. Sat through some incredible sessions today. I learned so much. I was telling Patrick the one thing I really did learn is do not eat coney dogs for lunch and then speak into a microphone because it lingers. But some things you learn the hard way. But yeah, we just appreciate everyone on here. We had a wonderful session ourselves. It's so much fun, and anytime anyone needs anything, by all means, we're always here for everyone. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
And I wonder, before we move on, I wonder if we can just take a quick screenshot with Brandy and Louis, and if folks will come on camera, I'd like to share that out on our social media, and just again, thank them for what they do. So we'll just do it really quick. Check your hair.
Wait.
Your nails.
Wait.
There we go. All right, ready? We're gonna smile in 3, 2, 1. Great. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Brandy and Louis, for your support of us here in Michigan. And I'll get that over to you because Burlington needs to get on the social media scene. Brandy and I have talked about that for a while. So we'll make sure we'll get it out to you guys. So today for our lunchtime presentation, we wanted to update you and share with you on all things advocacy and legislation, where we are at in the process, we appreciate you. We know that we've been sending out lots of priority emails, urgent things like that. And we just wanted to share with you where things sit, where things are. And I think the big picture, and I'll lean on Tammy here as well, is that we are really at a very critical time. If you've been in adult education for a number of years, we've seen the ebbs and flows of funding. We've seen the ebbs and flows of advocacy. Sometimes we've rallied around and we haven't gotten things. This time is different. And I know people have said that in the past, but this time is really, really different. And what has been so important and very singular around some of our advocacy efforts across community, alternative, and adult ed is that we have started from a space of positivity and growth and change coming out of the pandemic. And our governor has proposed increases in many ways. And we have not been in a position where we've often had an executive governor from either political party supporting some of the things that we stand for. They've supported them from a policy perspective, but not necessarily from an increase in funding perspective. So that's a win already that we're in that space. And we're also now in a space where the House and the Senate also are recognizing the importance of the investing in literacy, community education, alternative education. And we've not always been in that space either. And so we really need to lean into this space and really recognize that this is a very important time for us to be engaged. And so we're going to walk through things today. As you have questions, I would invite you to put them into the chat and we'll be happy to address them. I believe our colleagues at Michigan Children may be logging on to help us answer. If we do have them on, that would be awesome. But we'll kind of work through this. But Tammy, is there anything kind of 30,000 you want to just say about the process thus far?
Yeah, I just want to say also, we have some alternative ed members on today as well, that K-12 is looking at some increases as they try to spend out those ESSER funds as well. So it's not just adult ed that is looking at getting increases. Alternative ed, though, is kind of right in there with K-12 with FTE. So theirs is a little easier to get this year because it's not just one pocket of money. It's for that whole K-12 that everyone supports. So kudos for our alternative ed too, that should be seeing some increases. Hopefully the districts give you some of the increase. We'll, you know how that goes with alternative ed. But with adult ed, like Patrick said, this is the first time in 15, 20 years that we're looking at a really impactful amount of money that could be coming our way. And we're really trying to put focus on the executive recommendation because it has sustainable funding, not just 1 or 2 year funding. So I would encourage you all to get out of your comfort zones, reach out to your local legislators, your superintendents, if they have great connections with legislators. This is the 1 year that we really need everyone on board and supporting our advocacy for adult education, because I don't know that we'll see this again anytime soon, this opportunity. So please, please take advantage of the emails and the templates Patrick has been sending you and take this seriously. We will help you figure out how to spend it. We'll have PDs on that too, because I know some are worried about how am I going to spend all this, especially if it's not sustainable funding. We will help you figure it out. We have to spend it if we get it, or we won't keep getting it.
So
Lecture done.
today, what we will do is kind of review where we have been at, what we propose on behalf of MACAE and on behalf of you as members, where we are in the budget process, what this means for us. You know, because sometimes it's interpreting what legislators' minds are, I think, is almost like, you know, reading what direction the wind will blow today. You know, you just don't know. Yeah, you know, just see what happens when you wake up. So that we'll kind of discuss that and then talk about some action steps and next steps as we go forward. So a couple of things as it relates to flexible learning and some of our alternative and adult populations is we have supported the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And if you remember, that's a new grant opportunity that's available starting with this graduating class of 2023. And that includes anyone graduating with a high school diploma, as well as graduating with a high school equivalency, that they would be able to apply to attend post-secondary, whether that's at a community college or university, and receive tuition coverage through the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And in many cases, it would cover the remaining amount balance that's not covered by the Pell Grant already. So it's a wonderful opportunity. We've supported that. We think that this a really strong investment. It's something that hasn't been invested in our state in about 15 years. There was another scholarship opportunity that was available then, and it was yanked away. And so this is a really positive, important step. We've held a webinar on this. If you go to our YouTube professional development MACAE page, you'll find that there if you want to rewatch it. We've been sending some information out about this, but we have supported that. And that's included in the state budget as proposed this year. We also have supported expanding the Michigan Reconnect program. There are details still kind of being worked out through that budget process, but if you recall, that's for ages 25 and above to go and earn college, again, a similar type program of being re-engaged in the educational pathway program and earning college credit, as well as receiving tuition reimbursement or financial aid as folks continue on their educational pathway. A large number of stakeholders have been working to have that age reduced to age 21. And so we've supported that because it would also include our adult learner populations that may have exited the K-12 system, transitioned to adult learning, may not yet be eligible for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And so we're part of that larger effort and those larger networks. So we've supported those things are supported in the budget. It remains to be seen how much they'll be funded, but we've supported those wholly as opportunities for all learners leaving the K-12 system and transitioning to post-secondary. If that's an option for them, we need to have these supports in place to really support their successful transition. And adult learners have been also included in those pathways and opportunities. In terms of before and after school investments, we have supported ongoing funding for before and after school programming as a 21st century learning model for $25 million. That was included in this current year's state budget. And then next time they've also included a one-time $25 million. It's a competitive grant process. You do have to go through that process and ensure that your programming aligns with the 21st century learning model, which is through the Michigan Department of Education. I know some of you in that space are familiar with that. But through our advocacy efforts, community-based organizations who have an emphasis on family literacy or community literacy would also be eligible for those funds, so the one-time funding. So if you are, a couple of things, if you're a school district-based community education program, you may want to look into this and see if you want to go through the process of becoming a 21st century learning program. It is a rigorous process, I have to say, but it may be something that your school district wants to invest in. If you're a nonprofit literacy entity who does more than just adult skill building, and maybe you focus on generational programming or family literacy from a community-based organization perspective, you may also want to look into this as it goes forward. And I'm happy to meet and share that information as well. They're a little nuanced, but if you'd like more information, I would be happy to kind of walk you through what that looks like or put you in contact with some contacts within the Department of Education that oversees that grant. The other piece is shifting from alternative and community-based before and after school programming to adult education is, you'll recall that MACAE proposed the creation of an adult literacy opportunity fund in the state budget this year. This is a new, never before seen program, something that we have worked with our nonprofit literacy members over the last few months to garner and understand the literacy landscape. And one of the, thanks, Kimberly. One of the key components was to say that we need to support foundational literacy and that our literacy providers need to have resources to be able to really deliver the services at a foundational level to prepare learners who may not be on an employment track, may have secondary goals, but are still parents and creating generational literacy opportunities. And so this is what we proposed. and it would be strictly for non-profits, 501c3 providers, literacy councils. And I wanted to share with you where we're at in that process. So this is where we propose, and this is where it has been. And I shared this a few weeks ago with our literacy nonprofit providers. The executive budget did not include this recommendation, but the Senate and the House both have included that. So we feel very strongly between those entities that we will have the support for this to move forward. The Senate and the House budgets look a little bit different. And so we're working kind of behind the scenes with our lobbying partners at Michigan's Children and sharing out more information to clarify and make sure that that's streamlined. But essentially in the budget process, we feel very confident that this will be included ultimately for our literacy providers to access funding to serve some of the lowest level learners in our state and really help to scaffold and build out that literacy programming educational capacity that our state badly needs. And so I'm excited about this. We've gotten a lot of traction and a lot of support for this, but we need to continue to beat the drum. And this helps all of us, whether you're a Section 107 provider or a nonprofit literacy provider. It's so important that we're creating these on-ramps and these pathways to get more learners to the table, get them the needs and get them the needs that they have met, mitigate barriers, and then transition them on to what comes next. And so I'm very excited about this. We've worked very, 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 very hard to get this just where it is. And so we've got to keep that leg up. And we've been kind of doing our own communications with just the nonprofit literacy providers in that vein so that they can articulate what needs works best for them. So I just want to say thanks to our nonprofit literacy providers for being a part of that landscape. So no, Kimberly, please do not apologize. We should be cheering. This is an important investment in Michigan, and we'd like to see this through the finish line. And like I said, this is a really significant opportunity that our nonprofit literacy partners can be a part of. In terms of Section 107 funding, you'll recall that we called for an increase in adult education ongoing funding. We also called for flexibility in the types of allocations as well as the allowances that are there, trying to be innovative, look at different approaches to spending. But we also proposed targeted amounts or allocations for expanding completion services or testing for high school equivalency and GED, expanding our actual physical locations or the types of synchronous or asynchronous delivery that our programs might provide, partnership, expanding who we can partner with and how those funds can be braided, expanding to include support for literacy, as well as integrated education and training providers. And so all of that we shared, and it's Section 107, I want to say, is a little more complicated, but there's still opportunity here within that landscape. So to recap, the LEO budget, which is the executive office of the governor, they have proposed an ongoing increase of $15 million to increase Section 107, traditional Section 107, from $30 million a year to $45 million a year ongoing. They also included a one-time increase of $15 million for a new program called Section 107A, and that would be for innovative programs, covering much of what this effort and what we recommended going forward. The Senate and the House just came back with their budgets, so they look a little different. The Senate looked at increasing Section 107 for 1 year only from $30 million to $45 million and going back then to $30 million after 1 year. So essentially a one-time investment. The House budget kept funding at $30 million in the traditional Section 107 funding, but included a one-time $15 million for Section 107A. So the good news is that all agree that some sort of an investment in adult education as it relates to Section 107 school district LEA-based funding is a priority and it's important. And I think that's a win. And that we have never been in a position A, to have all branches of government agree that there should be an investment, and B, we've never been in a position where all 3 branches of government agree that a investment starting at $15 million or potentially ending at $30 million is a good idea. So those are 2 positive wins for us. We have been over the last few weeks assessing where these sit and where they are. But I want to, as we go forward, share where we stand as an association on behalf of you and what we're articulating, and where we all as members of MACAE need to come together and articulate and stand. But I just wanted to ask if there are any questions about these specifics before we talk. I want to separate out that we will next talk about where do we stand on all of these? What do we do next? But are there any clarifying questions about these things first? Tammy?
I just wanted to clarify that the 107A goes through, I think, 2026. And the reason why we're seeing that 15 million one time in all of them is the state still has a lot of ESSER dollars to spend out. So that is why we're seeing such a large one time, and why it's only one time is that some of them don't want to commit to long term. They're willing to commit these dollars because they have to spend them and they're going to expire. So if we can even support and get these and show that we can use them within the next 2 years, and then we add these spaces or these things, it'll be easier for us to then try to get an addition to the sustainable normal funding stream.
Great clarification, Tammy. Any other questions about, I know we've gone through a lot, but so any other questions about the specifics of what we've seen so far?
I have a question. At this point, it could go any of these 3 ways or some sort of combination.
Could be
Yes.
a compromise that's between, yeah.
The short answer is yes, Whitney, and the short answer is the most complicated. It really is, right? So
Okay.
it's and yes, and we'll talk about why that is in just a second. But any other
But we're
questions?
still all advocating for the same 3.
Yes, we'll talk
Nothing
about
different
that.
based on this. Okay.
Yes, I think that's the next slide. But any other quick
So-
questions before I go back to?
I do have a question, Patrick.
Yeah, hi, Laura.
Hi. I think you mentioned a minute ago about MACAE advocating for more flexibility in Section 107 funding. I just was curious about what flexibility means in that context.
Absolutely. So one of the ideas with the Section 107A as it proposed is that funding could be utilized in certain ways to make more, I guess, essentially try to make it easy, Laura, more purchases more allowable or more reasonable. So for example, having conversations about, we always talk about mitigating student barriers, and from that we always identify things such as food assistance or transportation, et cetera, being some of the major barriers, and that these funds could be utilized perhaps in such a way to cover things such as food, which is not currently an allowable cost. To cover, while we can do transportation, sometimes it's very limited with what we have available, right? Or there are limits to just our regular funding of, well, we can really only afford to have 1 bus ticket per person a week or whatever. So being able to expand that, looking also at perhaps training costs. So if right now Section 107 is not, it's not allowable to cover for the purchase of a training certificate or credential for a learner, but many of our providers utilize that, but also can't find additional funding to be able to do those. So those are just a couple of specific examples of how, because it's viewed as Section 107A would be viewed as an innovative pilot, we could propose to use it in a way that's different than the general Section 107.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, so let me go back and finish answering the second half of your question, Whitney. What do we stand? Where are we at? So this, when I say we, I mean, all of us as an association, every member. This is where we stand in the general interests of the greater good of all of us combined together. Within MACAE, what is so beautiful about us is that we have nonprofit literacy organizations. We have community before and after school based organizations. We have school district based community education. We have alternative education programs. We have physical alternative education and totally virtual alternative education. We have adult education, school district based programs. We have nonprofit based literacy programs. We have employer trainer partners. We have vendor partners. And so while that's a beautiful thing, it also creates a space where we sometimes have division. And this is a time when we really cannot afford to have division, because we are really advocating that everyone at the table within MACAE benefits in some way and gets something. So here are the things that we stand for. We believe that the expansion of the MAS, the Achievement Scholarship, and the Missouri Connect is important. We believe that we've got to expand that before and after school funding that we talked about earlier. That's a priority and important. We believe that as proposed by the governor, we need $15 million ongoing for adult education services in Section 107. We also believe that we need the one-time Section 107A as written to be approved and supported. And we also believe that we have to create and support the nonprofit adult literacy investment as it has been proposed by the legislature. So to all of you, we've sent out some verbiage, and I would strongly encourage you, really demand that you send that to your respective legislatures. If you have staff members, even if they're not a MACAE member or they're part of your staff, please encourage them to do so as well. We've tried to make it as simple as possible. I can walk you through what it looks like. But this is where we stand. And essentially the letter that you're sending says, we support these things that MACAE is advocating for on our behalf. And if we can continue to do that as we go through this process, it will become much easier to articulate our combined message, because right now we are at a juncture where the Senate, the House, and the governor are essentially taking the next 2 weeks to go into what's called conference committee, and they will hash out the details of these things. And unfortunately, only about 6 people in the whole state will decide the future for all of this. We will not be in the room when that's decided, but we can do everything we can up till we get to the door. And that's really where your voice is needed to help us, to help them, really the decision makers, remember that the last thing when they go into that room, the last thing they hear before that room is, these are our priority investments and this is what we need to support. So please look for your emails. The Section 107 was sent out a little bit earlier. The nonprofit literacy was just sent out a little bit ago. If you don't see it, please stay on for a second or send me an email and I'm happy to resend it to you. But this is where we stand. And this is where we need your support more than ever to go through this. Another suggestion that another colleague made was that perhaps we need to have just a quick little webinar or a series of webinars to help people walk through copying and pasting and sending it to email. I'm happy to do that. So I'm looking at next week. Sometimes when we send out our MACAE Monday update, we'll probably propose a few times next week. If you are unsure about what something means, or if you need help sending your email, we'll help you through that process. But this is really where we stand, and it's exciting. It really is. We're at a wonderful cusp here to send it out. And thank you to all those that have already sent out as well. I see in the chat, and I've received some emails from people as well. So
And
please,
Patrick, I know we're running over, but we really do have to give a kudos to you for helping establish some of those relationships, especially in the governor's office, to keep this ball moving. You know, we've been trying to work with ESSER funds and getting some of that funding. It took 2 years, but your work is paying off, and really kudos for staying on top of it, for making this so easy and concise for all of us to read, and providing those templates so that those that are super busy, multitasking with several different program responsibilities, that it is, quick and easy for us to support this venture. So just kudos to you, and now to Dawn for helping filter through all the emails and questions as well. You guys have done an amazing job staying on this and keeping the pedal to the metal. Thank you.
thank you. All right, so we are over and I apologize, we will end here, but our next steps are, please trust and know that we're working behind the scenes on your behalf. Really the most important or critical thing that we need you to do is to send this verbiage to your elected official. That's really what we need, your state senator and your state representative. We need you to go through that process. We sent out an email that says, click here, find out who your person is, you put your address, and then copy and paste the verbiage that's in the email. Please do that. That is the most helpful thing that you can do in this next week, if you wouldn't mind. And I will leave you with that. Any questions?
I have one, Patrick.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
go
because
ahead.
I don't understand, but in your proposal for 107, there's nothing about any continuing money for the programs. You know, you've got the 107A, but that's, but what about like something that we get a little bit more every year? You know, we haven't had an increase in the individual budgets.
So our recommendation and our verbiage supports the executive recommendation, which calls for an ongoing increase of $15 million. So that's what you're talking about,
Yeah, okay.
So, and then, and in addition to that, the section 107A.
Okay, I must have missed that in the piece that you wrote, because I was reading it. Okay, sorry, I didn't see that.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Only the executive
Budget.
budget has the ongoing money. The other two, House and
Right.
Senate, do not. So that's why we're pushing forward.
No, that
advocating
makes
for the
sense. I
executive.
just didn't, when I read it, I missed that we are doing anything ongoing, even $1 each would be better than nothing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Anne. Anyone else?
Patrick, I have a question, but it's not related to this. So can we hang on for just a moment when you're done?
We can, and I will thank everyone. And we'll see you in about 10 minutes or 15 minutes at the 1 o'clock last presentation of the day. Thank you so much for attending the Institute. We will be also sending out the sketch validation form as well this afternoon. So thank you all for being here and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Patrick, I haven't received either of the emails.